Hey kids, Flexing Teacher Weber here. I'm going to continue with looking at area of rectangles. Now, what we can do after we know how to calculate the area of a rectangle, we can figure out the area of figures made up by rectangles. Now, the key part in doing this sort of thing is you have to sort of use your problem-solving skills to figure out the length of some sides in order to calculate the area of composite figures. Now, if you look at this first shape, and before we do anything, I guess we should talk about how a composite figure is composed of many shapes. The ones we're going to look at are just going to be composed of rectangles today. Now, in this shape here, there's more than one way to do these kinds of questions, but I'm going to do them in the way that I think is the simplest way, but you might have other ways. Now, if you look at this shape, you want to try to picture where the rectangles are, and I'm going to add a dotted line to separate this into two rectangles. You see that dotted line right there? And now we have two rectangles. Now I'm going to call this one right here, just playing with my, there we go. Okay. I'm going to call this shape A1 for area 1. And I'm going to call this shape A2 for area 2. Now let's calculate the area of each of these rectangles. So for the first rectangle, I'm going to say A1 equals length times width. We always start off writing our math equation. Now let's look at A1. A1 has a length of 8 centimeters and a width of 7 centimeters. 8 by 7. So to calculate the area of that one, you work down the page. A1 equals 8 times 7, and remember we show that multiplication with parentheses. And that works out to A1 equals 56 centimeters squared. So 56 square centimeters would fit inside that shape. Now to calculate the area of A2, we need to make sure we have the length and the width. Now I have the shorter side of A2. A2 has a 5 centimeter side right here, and you can see that little dash indicating that that side and that side are the same. So the width of A1 is, or the width of A2 is 5 centimeters. But what about this longer side? We need to have the longer side. Now look at this. This distance here is 8, so this has to be 8. Plus there's a 2 centimeter side here that has a little symbol, and this symbol matches that symbol, so this side here is also 2. So we have 2 plus 8 is going to give us 12. So the long side of this shape from here to here is 12 centimeters. So we have a rectangle that's 12 by 5. So to calculate A2, I'm going to write my math equation again. A2 equals length times width. A2 equals 12 times 5. And A2 equals 60 centimeters squared. Nice and neat and organized. Now to get my total, I have to add up my two areas. So I'll label this over here. I'll call it total. Notice how I give things names. Makes it way easier and makes your solutions well organized. So my total area, I have one area of 56, another of 60. I add those up. And my total area for this shape is 116 centimeters squared. So the idea is to divide it into rectangles and then start to figure out the area of those rectangles. Let's look at another one. Okay, we have another composite figure. Now I just want to add something to this diagram. I want to add something I forgot to put in, so I'm going to add a little symbol here, that little marking there, indicating that this side and this side are the same distance. Now, um, again, look for the rectangles. I'm going to divide this right there. Call this A1 and call this little guy A2. And then I'm going to calculate the area of each shape. So we'll say A1 equals length times width. A1 equals 9 2/10 times 8. I'll go work that out on scrap paper, and I'm going to get that A1 is equal to 73 6/10 centimeters squared. Now I'm going to calculate my A2. You'll notice we've got a 3 centimeter side here, and since they both have matching markers, this is also a 3 centimeter side. So basically we have a square. Now calculating the area of a square is the same as calculating the area of a rectangle. Some people don't use length times width. Some people say side times side because all the sides are the same. It doesn't really matter. I'm just going to stick with the same math equation. Area 2 equals length times width. In this case, the length and the width are the same because it's a square, so 3 times 3. And area 2 equals 9 centimeters squared. We have our two areas. Now to get the total, let's add them up. So my total, again, I love using math equations, working down the page, organizing everything, makes it just a well thought out solution. Mathematics isn't just about getting the answer, it's about displaying your answer in a well thought out way. So the total here, when we add these up, is 73 6/10 plus 9, and that's going to work out to 82 6/10 centimeters squared. So there's a couple questions that deal with composite area. I'm going to do one last video where I'll do a couple more questions and then give you some to practice. Hopefully this is sort of making sense. Flexing Teacher Weber, out.